a little town next to Haddonfield, New Jersey, called Audubon, New Jersey.
Huh.
Um, and it had been five 18th century farms that had been cut up into development lots in the 1890s and 1920s. And they sort of made these little bungalow houses. And my father's father was the son of a Civil War veteran who, when his wife died, had 10 children. He just gave them out to farmers for, laborers. And my grandfather was raised by Duncan Quakers in on the border between Maryland and Pennsylvania. And while he was there, he learned how to be a welder. And as a master welder at the turn of the century, there was big projects going on in places like Philadelphia where he was he could write his own ticket, so to speak. So he moved to Philadelphia to build high-rise buildings, bridges, and streetcars and trolley tracks, etc. And my father was born there in this little street in Philadelphia. My grandfather couldn't stand living in downtown Philadelphia, so he took he found an ad in the newspaper for a house in New Jersey. He took this, there was no bridge, so he had to take a ferry to New Jersey. He gets on a train, takes the train to this little town, walks to the site where the ad was, and there's a guy driving nails into the side of the house, and he says, "I'm looking for these houses." And the guy said, "Well, here's one right here." And he said, "You want to look at it? Go ahead." And so my grandfather walks in the door, walks around, looks at it, and came out and he says, "I like the house. How much is it?" And the guy says, $1,250. Three-bedroom house, brand new. And my grandfather said, "I'll take it," and took $1,250 out of his pocket and handed it to the guy. And the guy signed the deed to him with a pencil. And my grandfather went back by train, back on the Brit to the boat, went into the house in Philadelphia and said, "Pack, we're moving." And they left. And that was how they got in this little town. And it was, I had probably growing up, I had 30 relatives who lived within a mile of where I lived. My mother's sisters and my father's brothers and sisters, they were all in that area. And so it felt like a very, what most Americans would think is a perfect small town, except it had this other issue. There were no Jews, there were no Catholics, there were no blacks, there was no Puerto Ricans. My father was, complained constantly about Italians because there were Italians who worked on the railroad and things like that. And so uh, the world that they lived in is just wasn't the world I wanted to be part of. And Haddonfield, which was a little bit more sophisticated, was right next door. But even then, they weren't, it wasn't what I was looking for. Philadelphia or New York offered me what I was looking for, which was that grand mix of ideas.